Good morning and welcome back to Live with Lighthouse. We're here on Friday morning in Buffalo, New York, and thanks to everyone who's tuning in this morning. Live with Lighthouse is our show at Lighthouse Technology Services, where we bring business leaders and technology professionals the solutions to help drive their businesses and their careers forward. And we're really excited to have a great show this week. My name is Joe Ray. I'm your host from Lighthouse Technology Services. Really looking forward to the show this week. It's a CIO of a local organization here in Buffalo that I admire very much, and really thankful for him to come on the show this week and share his expertise. I'm going to bring him on stream right here. I'd like to introduce Kevin Wiese, who's the CIO of BestSelf Behavioral Health. Kevin, thanks for coming on the show today.
Joe, good morning. Happy Friday, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, happy Friday indeed. It's been really great getting to know you over the last couple of weeks, and we've had a couple conversations. BestSelf is an organization that I've been very familiar with for a while, and I know you've been with them for a long time. So curious if you could tell us a little bit about your role and about BestSelf.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks. Well, I'm the Chief Information Officer at BestSelf. I've been with the organization approaching a decade now, actually, and sort of started out my career on the healthcare side of things. I worked as an exercise physiologist at a local hospital here coming out of college. Worked in the cardiac rehab space for about 7 years. And, left there, transitioned over to work for a medical software company. And that's where I sort of, started to cut my teeth in the IT space. Spent about 9 years there implementing, electronic health record systems, practice management systems. This was around 2009, when the EHR boom was happening. And there was a federal program called Meaningful Use that was, incentivizing doctors and medical practices to adopt EHR technologies. Was busy there for quite some time, and then transitioned over to what was at the time Lakeshore Behavioral Health. We merged with another organization back in 2017, Child and Adolescent Treatment Services, to become BestSelf, and then I've been here ever since. So I support several teams here at the organization. IT, cybersecurity, data analytics, quality improvement, and population health.
Awesome. And how many employees does that look like for those different technology teams?
Sure. So in my area, it's about 25, 26, total employees, in that space.
Awesome. And really curious too, you mentioned a lot in there too about the healthcare background, and your degree, I believe, was in exercise physiology. And we talk a lot at Lighthouse to a lot of people about transitioning from non-tech careers into tech and people finding those transferable skills. And it sounds like really through that time where a lot of healthcare information became digitized and that conversion over to new technologies. What was that experience like for you, and what were some of the new things that you had to learn going through that process?
Sure. Yeah, my master's degree is in health and human performance. So right, not on the tech side really, but I always had an interest in that area. When I was at the hospital, towards the end of my time there, I was actually doing some charge posting, some work on the billing side of things, and that sort of, I think maybe laid some of the groundwork that allowed me to make a transition over to the medical, software company, that I spent some time with. So for me, my passion's always sort of been in the healthcare and the technology space. So both of those passions, come together well, and have allowed me to sort of develop, into kind of where I'm at today.
Yeah, it's great to see kind of the combination of different interests coming together and being able to find a role that makes an impact. And like you said, BestSelf recently, the merger of two large healthcare organizations in Buffalo. It's one that always makes an impact with me. I drive around town and I see the billboards all over town in BestSelf, where the tagline is "Life gets the best of you," and then the "of" is crossed out to get "Life gets the best of you." And it's one that I always stop and look at, and I'm like, there's so many different things that encompass BestSelf and what that organization does in the community, and just to be able to boil it down that simply is incredible. And the work that your team does with technology really makes a lot of that possible. So I guess kind of one area I wanted to go to is kind of what's been the most rewarding part of you working for an organization like this.
Yeah, I think, and I think we'll get in today about talking about, kind of how we support our employees and help them sort of find meaning in their work. And yeah, I think, it's being part of an organization that has a really great, mission and vision, right? We are prevalent in the community. I think, we have close to 30, brick and mortar locations, around Western New York. We're also embedded in about 40 other locations around the community. A lot of those are schools, and we provide a lot of school-based services. We're in some doctors' offices as well. So, yeah, really, over 70 locations in Western New York, and serving over 40,000 clients, every year. So, providing a range of services, obviously mental health and substance use disorder counseling is a lot of what we do. But we also do some residential treatment. We're a health home, so we provide some care management services to folks in the community. Mobile-based treatment, so we're out, in the community. We have mobile vans. So if there's clients who really can't get to us, we can meet and service them in the community.
Yeah, being able to reach people where they are is so key. And like you said too, you've got over 70 different locations too, and then the option to go to people where they need to. I imagine the technology and then a lot of the teams that you oversee plays a large part in, managing patients' care, being able to help people find access. I know telemedicine really became a big thing, kind of started taking off during COVID times too, when people were at home and still needed to communicate with doctors. I just think about so many different areas where technology makes a difference in healthcare. And to your point too, you've got many different teams and close to 30 employees there that are making all that possible. So for yourself as well, you're in charge of recruiting those teams and helping those employees grow. So I thought a good place for us to maybe start our discussion would be on that recruiting side too. That you're probably hiring a lot of people, from different backgrounds with different skill sets. Are there any common traits in there that you kind of have that you're looking for when you're saying, hey, this person is a good fit as a technologist at BestSelf?
Yeah, that's a great question, Joe. And I think skills, of course, vary kind of based on the role that you're hiring for. And I think those sort of hard or those vocational skills, right, are certainly important. There's some baseline you have to have if you're applying for a role in analytics or a role on for our network infrastructure team, that sort of thing. But I think there's your value can increase tremendously if you have, and they've been called different things, over the years. It was always sort of soft skills, then you hear this term core skill. And then we may talk a little bit about, Seth Godin today and some of his work, and he sort of calls them these real skills, nowadays. So, what is that? I mean, I think you don't often see these on a resume. They're harder to assess, but it's like, do you have ambition? Do you kind of care about the work? When you come in, do you sort of do more than you're asked? Are you willing to, maybe step out of your lane and offer ideas? So, those things I think are really important. When we sort of start to talk to people, we try and, ask some questions to see if we can, dig into that a little bit and, maybe see what, their history has been like in those particular areas.
Yeah. Those soft skills you mentioned, and we'll talk about Seth Godin a little bit more too with another question here. It's really so crucial to be able to identify those soft skills in a person in the interview, but also you alluded a little bit to BestSelf's mission and vision and being an organization that has that community presence. I imagine that you're definitely looking for people who align and who are going to contribute towards that too. What does that look like for your team when you're interviewing and kind of how you're assessing? Sometimes we've heard the term culture fit or culture add as an alternative as well, but how do you kind of approach that fit and looking for that?
Yeah, I think I do like culture add, right? Nowadays, I think if we have a team of people with the exact same skills and the exact same ways of thinking, we're not quite as good as if we're, a more diverse group of folks. And I think, here at BestSelf, that's one of our strengths in the areas that I support, is we have, just a lot of folks with a lot of great experience in different areas. So when we come together on projects or to try and solve problems, it's great when you have people with those different backgrounds. And a lot of times outside of IT as well, we're looking to add some folks to our quality improvement area now, and that's a department that works on a lot of different things, but
Nice.
they do a lot of things with process improvement and project management. So we recently spoke with someone who had that experience, but it was on the banking side,
Okay.
for the past, 10, 20 years, I think it was. And, I love when we get those sorts of applicants. I love looking and, adding people with those diverse, experiences and backgrounds, because I think they get us to think differently and, think outside the box, about things that we're doing here within the organization. So, I probably look for relevant, I always look for relevant experience,
Yeah.
but when I, look at resumes, I get excited when I see, like this person who had some of the things we're looking for, process improvement, project management, but in a different industry. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. Let's talk to this person.
Yeah, those kinds of things are always transferable. And I always find too that being able to apply the same principles in different industries too helps you gain a new perspective on it. And Allison from our team at Lighthouse just chimed in the comments too. Training can always be provided to a candidate who has awesome soft skills along with ambition. So to your point too, it's a great conversation piece there. Talking about, the talent market out there. We always think of the perfect candidate before we start looking for people for a new job opening and things like that. It's important to look for those kinds of areas too, where there's room to train people and say, hey, this person has the majority of the skills in project management, for example. We can teach them within the healthcare context here of BestSelf, where those principles translate coming over from a different industry. So incredible to just kind of see that perspective there, and really, really appreciate you sharing all that. Is there anything else we haven't hit on that when you're recruiting for your teams at BestSelf that you like to look for? Anything kind of outside the box?
I think, in the technology space, and I think the world in general now, things change really fast, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, we talk internally and here within our teams, and I think when we're, looking to bring on new staff, it's like, sort of what's your willingness to learn, and adapt to change. So, just on the technology side, you used to have all these, servers that would sit in a data center, in a physical data center, right? But now we have all these technologies moving to the cloud. So, are you willing to, take some time, learn, adapt, go for some training, to learn and embrace these new technologies? So, with the speed at which things change, I think you have to, if you want to improve your chances of being successful, just sort of be willing to learn and adapt, to that.
Yeah.
Now rapid pace of change.
Yeah, absolutely. That ongoing education is key. Do you have any places that you like to go to for kind of keeping up with industry news and new developments and whatnot?
Yeah, I have a ton of places I like to go, and maybe this is a whole nother podcast. I'm not sure, but yeah, I love podcasts. There's a couple, healthcare related ones. This Week Health is great.
Nice.
I think, it's professional organizations. I'm a member, and have certifications through the College of Healthcare Information Management Executives, CHIME, and HIMSS, the Healthcare Information Management System Society. I've been involved with those two for a long time. So if you're, especially in the health IT space, those are really two go-tos that I would recommend exploring.
Yeah. Keep a lookout for those. Thank you. I think it's a good point here. We can go take a pivot because we talked a lot about talent attraction and recruiting as well, but really the second part of that, and what I'm really excited to learn from you about, is looking at essentially employee retention and making sure your employees have a fulfilling experience during work and feel like they're part of the team and have a good experience. We talked about fulfillment being a little bit of that too, and I'm actually curious, maybe we can start with the Seth Godin book that you mentioned. You finished one of his books recently, and maybe you can talk a little bit about what you learned from there and what that might apply to helping your team members.
Yeah, thank you. I think we're both fans of Seth here, right? And he's got a recent book out, The Song of Significance, that really talks about work today and how it's changed, and how as leaders we can be, I guess, empowering our employees and really getting them to do significant work, whatever organization that they're at. So he references some interesting research that he did, where they surveyed over 10,000 people in 90 different countries, and they ranked was the top 15 things that they say are most important to them, or were part of the conditions at the best job that they ever had. And, the top four were that they surprised themselves with what they can accomplish. They're able to work independently. The team they were on built something important or did something important. And then, they were treated with respect. So I think, interestingly, out of the 15 items there, money was number 12.
Wow.
So,
Interesting.
Pretty wide-ranging research there, and I think we as leaders can learn a lot from that, right? I think it's spending time with your folks, working with them. For me, providing good communication, clarity, sort of around our organizational goals, and what's the most important work that we can be doing to help the organization, help our clients. I always say that even though as technologists, we're not on the front line, if you will, in the healthcare space. I mean, the work that we do, enables our staff, our clinicians to see our clients and provide them with good services. So, standing up that good network or that good wireless access at a location is really important because it allows our staff, our clinicians to do their job. Those analytic dashboards that we're building, empowers our supervisors to, work with their staff and mentor them and lead them. So, yeah, I think it's, we may not always realize it, but just sort of trying to tie the work that we do in the technology area, to the service and the clients in the community.
Incredible. Thank you. It's so important to kind of think about how all the work plays into that bigger picture, that bigger mission, and then how employees can become aware of that. And that's kind of the job of leadership too, among other things, is just to make sure employees know the impact of their work beyond just saying, hey, thank you for coming into work today and completing this job, setting up this wireless station, for example, like you said there, just knowing the greater impact of, hey, this is going to enable this doctor's office to be able to serve patients without them having to come into the office. And that makes a big difference, which then goes into BestSelf's mission of being able to connect people to the health solutions that they need. We try to approach a lot of those things the same way at Lighthouse too. We try to be the most inspiring technology partner. And part of that is even just starting a show like this and saying, hey, we've got a lot of expertise. We know a lot of people in Buffalo who have some expertise that we can share with a greater audience too, and creating a platform for that. So when you're in with your teams at BestSelf, how do you help them connect to that greater impact of the work? Is it one-to-one meetings? Is it kind of bringing the broader team together? What does that look like?
For me, it's definitely, one-on-one meetings. I think, as a leader, meeting and spending time with your folks regularly is really important. That time together for me is sort of their time. I try and listen more than I talk, right? So let's go over kind of your challenges. What are your ideas on how we can sort of improve on things or do things differently, here within our department or at the organization. Like I said earlier, I think for me, it's about good communication and providing clarity. Folks don't always know what's in my mind or what I want or what I'm seeing, right? So, part of my job is to communicate that, to them, and tie that work that, we're working on to the, organization's, mission and goals. I think, it's just, I try to extend a lot of trust, right? I believe in, hiring really good people, and sort of letting them do what they do. I think Steve Jobs is famous for saying, don't hire smart people and tell them what to do, hire really smart people and have them tell you what to do. And I really believe in that as well. So, I think it's, also talking, we talk a lot about people's, strengths and area of interest. I have these intentional conversations with folks, so we can get them working in the areas where they're strongest, where they have really, good talents, and where they're going to get energy, as well.
Yeah. And as leader, then it's important to be proactive and setting that stage and giving people the platform too, in case there's some employees who might not be comfortable, initiating that conversation to say, hey, I want to learn more about how my work is making an impact here. Maybe I want to have a conversation about doing something different. Are there any anecdotes that you have that you remember from your time with BestSelf and Lakeshore before that of, hey, creating the opportunity for someone to have that conversation with you and say, hey, I might want to step up into a different role and make an impact in a different way there. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, just kind of touching on that impact thing, as well as, there's a lot of research that, there's a lot of burnout, nowadays in healthcare and perhaps
Yeah.
in other
Yeah.
areas as well. And, there's certainly many contributing factors to that, but there's some research that says that people get burned out because they just feel like they're not having an impact, anymore, right? Or so I think for me as a leader, like we talked about earlier, I think just, communicating with folks, letting them understand that, right, the work that you're doing is impactful. That data that you provided to the leadership team really helped us to make this strategic decision to move the business in this direction, that type of thing. So yeah, I think that was sort of eye-opening to me when I was reading some of that research lately, right? It's just, you know, it can
Yeah.
be, people being overwhelmed with too much work, but it can also just be that I don't know if I'm having an impact on the job that I'm doing anymore, you
Mhm.
know. I think, on the and then to answer your question,
Yeah.
right, I think, we do, in talking to folks about their interests and really what they like doing in their skills, we're always open to, moving them to different parts of the organization. We recently, had some staff changes in our data and analytics area. So we're able to move someone from our quality improvement side of the house, over into the data analytics side,
Nice.
which was great. They had some really good skills, on the programming side and the data side. It was something they want to get interested in. So yeah, we were able to shift them over, and that's been a really good addition. So it gets them really, or keeps them really interested in the work that they're doing. It helps them grow and develop. And then it's certainly really valuable to our department and the organization, when we're able to retain those folks.
Yeah, yeah. Those transferable skills they come in very well too. Even when you're talking about the people who are on your team already and have an opportunity to make a different impact, not just when you're recruiting externally and saying, "Hey, this person has experience in a different industry. How can they transfer it in?" It's important to really consider all of that. Um, we talked on the show a couple weeks ago with Colin Gale, who's HR director at Say Yes Buffalo, and he was talking about professional development in his organization too, as a way to help people kind of step into making that bigger impact of helping people kind of find their role and kind of find new ways to step up internally in the organization. At Best Self, do you have anything like that? Any sort of professional development program that helps people to step up and find their impact in different ways?
Yeah, I think, we have several things, I think, that happen at the organization within our area. We do have, like a leadership development program, I guess you'd call it, that our HR and our training and, training area sort of, is created and, uses that to engage with our supervisors, throughout the year. I think internally within, the IT area, we do have, support folks who are looking to get some certifications and, broaden their skills.
Mhm.
We recently had someone do that on the security side.
Awesome.
And then we also, on the cybersecurity side as well, if we have folks who are maybe working on our help desk, for example, but they have an interest in moving into cybersecurity, we start to pair them up with someone on the security side of the house. We're doing that now actually.
Oh,
So,
nice.
um, they have some interest. We get them working on a small project or two. They get to develop some skills in a particular area. And again, it helps them sort of find meaning, keeps them energized, and hopefully, encourage them to remain with our organization, looking forward. Um, we're
Love that.
also we're talking a lot about process improvement, lately, and the concept of lean. We do have some,
Mhm.
certified lean professionals at the organization, but we're getting ready to, engage another cohort in certified lean professional training.
Awesome.
So again, another opportunity for growth and development for the individuals, that are here at BestSelf, and then, just other, valuable skills that'll, help impact, the services that we provide and the clients that we're serving.
Love that. Yeah, I know a lot of people who have gone through that Six Sigma or other lean programming and really learned about process improvement through that. But I also love too, and if I can find the link, I'll drop it in the comments later. Saw a study about the impact of people having like a work buddy or a peer mentor, and the impact of having somebody who's kind of on that same level, but maybe in a different business area, and helping them again, talking about impact, we talked about that word a lot today. Helping them connect a little differently that way, but having somebody who they can have a different conversation with, and that's supporting employee retention as well. So I'm really glad. Thank you for sharing all that too. So many different areas to hit on. But employee retention is definitely a big concern. I know for a lot of hiring managers, business leaders out there today. Is there anything else that you can kind of think of from your experience, Kevin? Anything else that might help in that area of retaining and helping employees grow?
Yeah, I think it's just, as a leader, and, Seth talks about this in his book as well, right? It's really, creating opportunities for people to contribute, to grow, and then just to connect, I think, with other people in the organization, and then with the mission as well, right? So, as I talk to my folks and, they have maybe a problem that they're working on or an area of interest, I'm like, oh, well, this person's working on this over here. Why don't we link up? Why don't we have a meeting? Why don't you, join this project here? Because you might have interest, you could bring some good value to the project, and it allows you to get a little bit more exposure to things that are happening across the organization. So I'm always trying to connect those things together, as I'm sitting, talking to the folks that I support in my area. Bring them into a new project. Is there a new team that's forming? I'm trying to solve a big problem. Let's pull some people from different areas and see if we can't get them energized through those types of initiatives.
Yeah, get them charged up. That's a great book. I'm going to go check it out here pretty soon. The Song of Significance by Seth Godin. I just got through his book before that, The Practice, about shipping creative work and being generous to others, with our work and things like that. So definitely looking forward to diving into that one next. For all our Buffalo listeners here, good connection there. Seth Godin grew up in East Amherst, New York, and now is a large marketer, entrepreneur, writer, keynote speaker, all those things, but definitely an inspiration for sure. So glad we could tie Seth Godin in here too. So thanks so much for that, Kevin. We're going to bring the show back home here and wrap up with our last question. I always like to, bring this back to one of our core values at Lighthouse Technology Services of Be a Lighthouse, which is all about helping people and helping them find the solutions they need. So Kevin, just in closing here, I wanted to open this up to you and give you the opportunity to shout out someone who's helped you lately or supported you or helped you learn something new.
Yeah, that's, I mentioned a little bit earlier in the talk here about a podcast called This Week Health. And that podcast was founded and is run by Bill Russell. And Bill Russell he's also the CEO of a company called Health Lyrics. They do, executive coaching for healthcare leaders. He was a CIO at a large healthcare system, out on the West Coast for several years. And Bill and I just get a lot of value from listening to his work. He interviews a lot of healthcare IT leaders, vendors, and just talks about things that they're doing, problems they're trying to solve, in the health IT and the technology space. So it's probably my most listened to podcast.
There you go.
Learn a lot from that. Usually, if I'm in the car, that's what's playing, and just allows me to really sort of stay abreast on what's happening, in the healthcare IT space. So I'll send a shout out to Bill for all the value that he brings to the space.
Yeah, thank you, Bill Russell, for being a lighthouse and helping everybody in the healthcare space. And thank you, Kevin, very much for coming on the show here. I think this was an awesome conversation, and really glad we could connect, and really glad that we could have you on the show here this week. So thank you so much.
Yeah, Joe. Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been great to spend some more time together with you and Lighthouse over the past several months here, getting to know you guys a little bit better. So I think you're doing great work, great job with the show, and thanks a lot for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you to everyone who tuned in this week for Live with Lighthouse. We're going to be back next week, Friday at 9:30 in the morning Eastern time, and we're going to have Elizabeth Venari on the show, who's one of the recruiters at Odoo here in Buffalo. They've set up their East Coast Tech Hub in Buffalo, so looking forward to having her on the show as well. Kevin, thanks so much, and have a great day.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.